Hello, and welcome to a special production from the Shuttle Tydirium Podcast. I'm Phil Meade, co-pilot on the Shuttle Tydirium, and I'm proud to present this episode in our four-part backstory series for the Shuttle Tydirium Gencon 2017 narrative event, Assault on Grayskull Base. If you're interested in where this story leads, and want to take part in its dramatic conclusion, consider attending Gencon 2017 and registering for our event. Registration opens on May 28th, and space will be limited. The full rules handbook for the narrative event will be released ahead of registration. For more details, be sure to keep an eye out in all the usual internet places. And you can always listen to the Shuttle Tydirium Podcast for additional information. Now, sit back and enjoy the episode.
12 X-Wings hung in the inky blackness of deep space, their hulls dimly lit by the light of distant stars. Their engines idled, ready to roar into action at even the slightest touch of the throttle, and their laser cannons primed and ready for action. In 12 cockpits, rebel pilots checked and rechecked their systems, reviewed reconnaissance data, and some, like Colonel Bowlin, simply sat quietly ready for action at a second's notice, like their ships.
Late, they're definitely light now.
2. Leader, your observation is noted.
How long do we wait, Meade?
We wait exactly as long as I want us to wait, too.
Understood, Lead.
They're amateurs, people. No military training. We have to give them a little leeway.
Leader, this is 7. I don't have formal military training and I show up to work on time.
7. Leader, you have military experience. You don't count.
That is true, but I didn't have any experience when I joined up either.
7, 2, you may as well stop trying.
You got a point, too.
Care to explain what you mean by that?
Leader, 2, no.
Leader, 7, negative on explanation.
3. Leader, explain 2 and 7, please.
Leader, 3, they're referring to your recent interaction with contact. You two are being very friendly, if my read on human emotional cues is accurate.
Thanks, 3. Glad to know I'm leading a squadron of professionals here.
Leader, 7, I never claimed to be a professional.
7. Leader, go ahead and professionally observe a calm silence until further notice. 2, 3, don't make me put the muzzle on you too.
Roger, Leader.
Acknowledged. I'm sure we'd be waiting for any other local yokel just as long.
That's our cue. All wings stand by to jump on my mark. Jump in 3, 2, 1, mark.
The 12 X-Wings suddenly lurched into motion, blurring briefly as they made the jump into hyperspace, leaving their stretch of deep space as quiet and dark as it had been an hour earlier, before their sudden arrival. Only a few dozen light hours away, the 12 X-Wings tore back into normal space in nearly perfect unison, in a wedge-shaped attack formation. Before them, a line of ungainly freighters and light transport stretched down toward the surface of a blue-gray marble of a planet. Our 4 immediately tagged 3 GR-81 bulk freighters, all 3 much closer to the front of the line than he'd planned for. At that near end of the line, and directly in front of the 12 X-Wings, an Imperial light cruiser loomed, flanked by a pair of assault carriers carrying 4 TIE fighters each. At the extreme range of his sensors, a Raider-class corvette was burning hard away from the customs checkpoint in hot pursuit of a YT-1300 light freighter, just as planned.
3 flight, 4 flight, engage the assault carrier. Hold torpedoes. 2 flight, get behind that cruiser and target the engines. Torpedoes free. 1 flight, I'm Meade. Get the cruiser's attention, but watch those guns. Make it snappy. We don't have a lot of time before the Raider's going to figure out what's going on.
Colonel Bowlin triggered his S-foil actuator, and his X-Wing assumed its signature attack configuration as he angled his starfighter toward the cruiser. His own flight followed him in, Nols and Tellin taking their familiar positions above and below him in attack formation, while the rest of the squadron blazed toward their own targets.
R4, signal our associates.
The cruiser, an outdated ship that was probably as old as Bowlin, reacted slowly, opening fire with only 1 gun position at first. The slow-tracking turbo-laser blasts went wide as Bowlin weaved closer to the cruiser. When he closed to 400 meters, he responded with a brief burst from his laser cannons, closely followed by fire from his wingmates. The Reg bolts lanced out and stitched across the cruiser's bow, where its shields were strongest, resulting in more of a light show than lasting damage. Bowlin pulled up and away as more guns on the cruiser opened fire. The oversized green energy blast missed by smaller and smaller margins as the crew found their range. One blast passed too close. A glancing hit his rear shields. Sparks flew inside Bowlin's cockpit as a power line overloaded.
Get those shields back up, R4. One flight, split formation, offensive, but keep outside their effective range.
Copy, lead.
Engaging.
Leader 7, first carrier disabled.
Nice work, 7.
Bowlin whipped his X-Wing around in a tight turn, pressing himself down into a seat as the inertial dampeners struggled to compensate. The crippled assault carrier was tumbling slowly in space, venting atmosphere from a gaping, glowing hole in its upper hull.
Heads up! 2 eyeballs launched from the other carrier.
Pre-flight, leader, engage those fighters.
Copy, leader.
Heads up, that raider's coming about. Time is a factor here.
Killjoy 8, you got one on your tail.
We just lost 8! He didn't punch out!
Bowlin grimaced and lined up for another run on the cruiser, dipping beneath the midline of the ship as the guns on the upper hull tracked to fire on him. He triggered another burst of laser fire at the ship and pulled away without watching for the impact. Turbo laser blasts buffeted his ship as he accelerated away.
2 flights starting our attack run.
Bowlin swung his X-Wing's nose around a little sooner than he should have so he could watch the fireworks. As he came about to face down the light cruiser, explosions blossomed, framing the ship's hull as second flight of torpedoes found their mark in the drive section. The turbo laser fire stopped immediately, and the ship's hull cracked open at the seams as a generator at the core of the ship ruptured and exploded. The 4 X-Wings of second flight sped away from the expanding debris field.
Catastrophic kill, 2 flight. Switch to Overwatch.
Acknowledge, lead.
Nice work. The Raider is ordering the civilian ships to hold position. We'll have to do this the hard way. 3 flight, 4 flight. I want that second carrier and all ties destroyed now. Torpedoes free. 1 flight, warm up on me. Time to buzz the line.
Copy, lead. Command won't like this.
Bowlin feathered his etheric rudder and brought his X-Wing around at a lazy arc, giving his flight mates an opportunity to fall in on either side of his ship as he vectored towards the line of civilian ships. He checked his shields. R4 was still struggling to bring them up past 50%.
All right. Make it look good. Not too good.
Copy, lead.
Bowlin opened up his throttle, accelerating to attack speed. The civilian ships had little chance to react as he and his flight blazed toward them. Aiming carefully, he triggered a burst from his laser cannon, sending the energy blast right across the nose of a bulk freighter, searing its shields and overloading the pitifully weak forward projector. The civilians had been slow to react before, but they were quick to panic now. Ships scattered in every direction as Bowlin's wingmates opened fire, their own shots carefully aimed to sow chaos but cause no lasting damage. Bowlin watched carefully as the 3 bulk freighters R4 had tagged earlier broke away from the line and started making a run for hyperspace under the cover of the chaos. Thousands of tons of supplies, many of them illicit, now bound for the rebellion. With a sudden blinding flash of light and shuddering explosion, Bowlin was suddenly pinned to the right side of his crash couch as the X-Wing went into an uncontrolled spin. Inertial dampeners struggled, overloaded to keep the G-forces from killing him outright. Right before R4 triggered the ejection sequence, Bowlin saw through the left side of his canopy and the smoke filling the cockpit that both port S-foils were gone, along with both engines. Then, the canopy exploded away from the X-Wing and rocket underneath his crash seat fired, sending him hurtling away from the dying ship a split second before it careened into the side of a different bulk freighter.
Leader 3, what's your status?
3 flight, on me. Target that freighter.
Leader 2, are you alright?
Bowlin sucked down a breath, his head still swimming from the G-forces of the spin and the ejection rocket motor. There was the faint shimmer of his emergency life support unit's protective energy field as he exhaled.
3 flight, leader, stand down. Do not engage that civilian.
Leader, Killjoy 7. That freighter just blasted you. Confirm disengage order.
Killjoy 7, do not
not engage any civilian ship unless they are actively engaging you. 1 flight, abort maneuver. Get clear of the civilians.
3, acknowledged.
7, copy.
Bowlin spun slowly in space, still hurtling away from the engagement zone at the velocity his ejection seat had thrown him when R4 had triggered it. He felt a pang of guilt for the droid. It had surely been destroyed when his crippled X-Wing impacted into that bulk freighter. R4 had ejected him first, surely saving his life. He craned his neck to watch the freighters, already dwindling to small points of light, vanish into hyperspace until the slow spin of the seat made it impossible to see them anymore. The planet rotated into view instead.
Leader, 3, stand by for field pickup.
What? -3, no time. Stick to the plan. Get out before the raider gets here.
2 flight, 3 flight, 4 flight. Give that raider something to think about. Torpedoes free. 2, get ready to field pickup, leader.
Field pickup takes at least 5 minutes. You don't have that time.
Leader, 3, say again, your comm signal is weak.
Damn it, 3, don't pull that crap. Get out of here.
Leader signal is out. 2, make this the fastest field pickup in history.
A flight of X-Wings blazed past Bowlin, wagging S-foils as they passed. Bowlin shook his head angrily. Nols was going to get some of them killed just so he could save his squadron commander. That damn stubborn Mon Cal was going to throw away a handful of pilots to save one. He should have known better. Then, another flight of X-Wings rocketed past Bowlin, following the first.
3, lead. Where's that raider? Am I headed toward the raider?
There was no answer, but looking upward against the bright stars, he could make out the angry wedge of a Raider-class corvette headed straight for him, and he for it. Bowlin actually gaped inside his helmet. Nols wasn't going to get a few of them killed saving him. He was going to get the whole squadron killed. The chair's spin brought an X-Wing into view, moving very slowly on thrusters, inching toward him with the canopy open. He could see inside the cockpit, and his stomach fluttered. Maybe it would work. Maybe they could do it. But then he saw a flash of green as the Raider opened fire on the lead elements of the squadron. The Raider's laser cannons would cut them to ribbons if it forced them to engage at close range, and it was roaring straight at him to do just that.
Nols, you can't do it. Not against a Raider. You've got, 4 torpedoes left? You'll lose the squadron.
Bowlin carefully undid his blaster's holster strap and drew it, placing the muzzle against the right side of his helmet.
All right, Nols. Either you pull the squadron out, or I pull this trigger and end this now.
He waited for an answer, but none came. Were his comms actually out?
I pulled the trigger by blaster, which I am pointing at my, helmet, Nols.
Leader, 3, no names on comms.
Seriously, 3, I'll do it. I don't need a squadron for the blood on my hands.
Killjoys, this is 3. Disengage. 2 flight, follow me to escape point Alpha. 3 flight, 4 flight, head for escape Gamma. Rendezvous home base. Sorry, leader.
Thanks, 3.
Bowlin watched the green laser fire of the Corvette trickle to a stop as the X-Wings disengaged. He reholstered the blaster, carefully fastening the strap. He didn't want to lose it now, of all times. He watched as the Raider turned to follow his squadmates. It would be back to pick him up at its leisure, no doubt. Bowlin closed his eyes and tried to control his pulse. He knew what would happen to him if the Imperials got hold of him. Interrogation. Torture, for starters. First, the local ISB agents, whoever they were. Then their sector bosses, once they figured out who he was. He'd be transferred to the system's detention center, a subterranean Clone Wars-era facility, well defended against both air and ground attack. He thought about hitting it not long ago, and he knew the defenses well. 10 quad laser turrets with overlapping fields of fire, perfect for blasting X-Wings or other snub fighters. Guided missile launchers, a shield generator. It was a death trap, and he knew Nols would find some way to justify an attack to break him out. They'd been flying together for too long for the Mon Calamarian to consider any other course of action. It would be a futile, noble suicide run. Bowlin couldn't let that happen. He drew his blaster again and sucked in a deep breath, trying to relax as he brought it up under his helmet. Bowlin felt his ejection seat shudder, and suddenly the seat lurched backwards, yanking Bowlin along with surprising force. Bowlin's arms and legs flew outward, and he lost his grip on the blaster. It twirled away slowly, barely visible against the starry backdrop as Bowlin was drawn backwards, captured. Within seconds, the retrieval claw pulled him up into a cramped, dark bay. Doors snapped shut behind him, leaving him in complete darkness. He felt the ship's engines strain, with the familiar sensation of a hyperspace jump. Desperate, Bowlin pulled his release and dropped out of the seat and pulled off his helmet. Maybe if he acted fast, he could do something. The ejection seat still had some reaction mass. Maybe he could rig an explosive. Light flooded the salvage bay, but instead of a squad of stormtroopers, a disheveled Rhodian in a blue vest stood in the hatch.
Nasan Trusta.
I don't speak Rhodian.
Was it talking to you?
A woman appeared behind the Rhodian, arms crossed. She had a blaster on her hip, but it wasn't drawn, and she seemed more amused than worried.
Though, I have to agree, you don't look very appreciative. We can always jump back and drop you off for the Imperials to pick up, you know.
Nice to see you again, Captain Gethis. Good work diverting the raider.
Nawani Nasumata.
And?
Thanks for picking me up on the way out. Mind giving me a ride home?
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to help us continue improving and expanding our channel's content.